we're gonna cut out these 5 seconds, that way I don't look awkward. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back. So today is June 30th, and that means I have been done with school also for exactly 1 month. So I also had exactly a month to read books. And so I kind of wanted to do this like June wrap up, and maybe just talk about the books that I liked. This would this wrap up isn't gonna go super crazy deep into what I read, just because some books I really think deserve like their own video. But you know, I was pleasantly surprised. This kind of just to keep me, you know, keeping track of how many books I read, and I was surprised because I had managed to read, let's see, I had managed to read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books. So that's really like, I don't know English. That's really remarkable for me. I'm very proud of myself, so like pat on the back for myself. Just because I wasn't expecting to read that much, especially because, you know, I talked in my newbie tag about how I haven't been able to read for myself in a long time. But maybe that's why I was able to read so much, because I was just like, let's dive deep end, no sleep, read all the time. Although I am a very slow reader, I will admit to that. So the first 2 books that I read this month, and it's the first 2 because they are part of the duology, was I finally got my introduction to Leigh Bardugo, and I'm so happy I did. First 2 books I read were The Six of Crows and The Crooked Kingdom. I read The Six of Crows, I think, in 2 days. I probably could have read it in 1 day if I didn't watch like an absurd amount of Netflix, but I do. I'm only human. But I loved Six of Crows. As you can tell, my dog clearly loved Six of Crows too. It is like taped in here. The map is like missing. The first part of the map is missing because my dog just adored Six of Crows. So me and him, I think, both gave it 5 stars. The reason I gave it 5 stars, well, honestly, it probably didn't get all 5 stars. It probably got like 4.75 for me. But like Goodreads only lets you give like full stars, so I give it 5 stars because honestly I think the plot was like very interesting. This was kind of like my first heist novel that I probably ever read. There were some like occurrences that I think, you know, you have to suspend your belief and you have to really trust these characters for it to happen. But overall, I had a pleasure meeting all 6 of the characters. I had a pleasure getting to know them. I think the characters are beautifully written. I did not read the Shadow and Bone trilogy yet. This was my first introduction to the Grishaverse. Obviously, I don't know if you could tell, but now I have all of Leigh Bardugo's books. So I got, as soon as I finished Six of Crows, I ordered Ninth House, I ordered King of Scars, and I ordered the Shadow and Bone trilogy. So now I just can't wait. So I'm very excited to go into this, but Six of Crows, to me, it was a fantastic book. I truly felt myself like, you know, holding my breath once in a while when things didn't go according to plan, and I was always like, okay, like, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna do this? And honestly, I was the 7th character in the Six of Crows because I felt myself talking to them throughout the whole book. I was like, Kaz, what are you thinking? Like, Nina, you gorgeous queen, good job. Inej, let's go, baby. I got you. So I was the 7th character in Six of Crows, let's be real. And I also, like, I'm very excited to read Shadow and Bone because I know that we got it a bit from Nina because she is from, I swear to God, I'm gonna say Ravka, and I swear to God that's true, but watch me be wrong. But I know that it is supposed to be kind of like Russian based, and I'm very excited because I'm Ukrainian, but let's be real, like that was part of Russia for a long time, so you know, we got that going on. So I'm very excited to go deeper into the universe. So Six of Crows was an amazing first book to get me out of my, like, not reading slump, but kind of like my intro into reading for myself. And I think, honestly, after I finished this book, I cannot stop recommending it to people that were trying to look for something to read. I'm so sorry that it took me so long to get to this, but I'm so glad that I did. Obviously, following Six of Crows, like, I finished Six of Crows in one day, I started Crooked Kingdom the next day, which I usually don't do because I do want to give myself, like, the rest of that night to kind of process and, like, start a new book fresh, but I couldn't. As you can tell, I adored Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. I took out my tabs from Six of Crows because otherwise both of them wouldn't fit into the box. And I just think the writing of this duology and of this author is just so stunning. I really felt so immersed into the world. I did give Crooked Kingdoms, I believe, a 4 on Goodreads. Yikes. I know. The reason is, I was talking about it with a friend, and I felt like there was so much added into Crooked Kingdoms that if it had been introduced in Six of Crows, I would have given it a 5 stars for sure. But because there was a little bit too many, like, plot conveniences for me, I had to give it a 4 star. But honestly, I would still give it a 4.5 if I could. Maybe a 4.3? I guess that's why I stuck closer to the 4.4 star rating, because while I still adore the characters, I felt like some things were a little bit not adding up, where if they had been introduced or even just like slightly given the quickest hint of in Six of Crows, that would have been perfect. So that's why this one got a 4 star. But I will definitely be going into this duology like in its own separate video, so you know, then you could comment to me about what you agree or just tell me that I'm trash for not giving it 5 stars. So following kind of like this fantasy, I wanted to give myself like a short little break before I start another big book, and there has been this book that I have been eyeing for years, and one of my friends came over and he was just like, you have to read this book. If it's still on your TBR, make it the next book you read. It is a short read. It took me only a day to read it. And I'm so thankful that I listened to him and actually picked it up, because I had been eyeing it for years and, you know, it was just collecting dust at this point. And that is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I gave this book a 5 out of 5. So, like, you know, 3 bangers in a row, my man. I love this book. I think I actually might love it more than Six of Crows. I think for right now, it is my number 1 book of 2020. And it is such an emotional book. It is such a beautiful book. I haven't had a book that made me sob for 20 minutes uncontrollably for the longest time. Honestly, this book, I got to one scene, it was like 2 in the morning, I couldn't put it down. And I was crying so much that I couldn't breathe and I felt my heart hurting. And the only thing I wanted to do was run downstairs to my parents at 2 in the morning, wake them up, and just hug them, because, like, I love my parents. So this book gave me all of the feels. If you don't know what it's about, because, I mean, I was late to the game, so maybe you are too. If you do know what it's about and you haven't read it, I strongly suggest it. But if you don't know what it's about, it's basically, we live in this world. It's basically the same as our world, except for there's this company called Deathcast, and Deathcast calls you the day that you are going to die. And, you know, they inform you that within the next 24 hours you are going to die, but they can't tell you more than that. They can't tell you exactly when, they can't tell you how either. So they just tell you, hey, like, listen, you're going to die. These are all of the things that you can do today, and, you know, we're sorry for losing you. There's also this thing called a Last Friends app, which basically lets you talk to either people who are volunteering their time to kind of be the last friend that you have on your last day, or you could talk to other people that have received the call and are also wanting to spend their day with someone. So this story follows Mateo and Rufus and how they basically spend their last day together. And obviously, like, the title does not not the what am I saying? The title basically does tell you, like, they will both die at the end. There is no getting around the fact that they are both going to die. And at first I was just like, okay, like, I'm a big crier. I am an emotional crier. I am an emotional reader. I'm an emotional movie watcher. I'm very emotional. So I knew for a fact I was going to cry in this book. I did not realize how badly I was going to cry in this book. But overall, I think this book is just absolutely beautiful. While it does talk about the fact of death, it really does talk more about the fact of living and just kind of having no more regrets in your life. And I think it's a beautiful message. I also think the story is just absolutely beautiful. There's so much more that I want to say, but this book will definitely be getting its own video because there's just so much that I want to say about it. And it's beautiful, and honestly, if you're looking for a book to just kind of get absorbed into, this is the one that I highly recommend. Alright, my fourth book for this month of June was, I got myself a thriller. So I got myself The Guest List by Lucy Foley. The reason why I got a thriller is I can only read thrillers during the summer. I have this deep paranoia that someone is gonna come into my house and murder me. That, like, well, I know it is stupid. I have this paranoia whenever I go anywhere, like cruises, hotels, friends' houses. I go around and I check all the doors and all the windows because I don't want to get murdered. Imagine that. So thrillers, I'm not crazy about them. This book took me actually longer to get through than I was expecting because honestly, it's only like 312 pages. I wanted to get through it in 2 days. That way I could have another 2 books to read. But my parents left for vacation. And I was home alone. And I did not touch this book in the 4 days that they were gone because I was afraid of getting murdered. Yes. Also, I was running on, I think, maybe less than 12 hours of sleep for those 4 days because I cannot sleep when I'm home alone. I hate it. I was able to fall asleep after 4:45 a.m. because that was when the sun started rising, and obviously if someone's gonna murder me, they're not gonna murder me during the middle of the day, right? Makes sense. So, but I was so pleasantly surprised by this book. I did give it a 4-star because I felt like a little bit too long, even though it's only like 313 pages. I felt like maybe the suspense was kind of building up a little bit too much, where if she maybe cut out like maybe 15 pages or 20 pages, then it would have been such a, like, yes, okay, what happened, where is this all coming together, like, come on. Where some parts I felt like a few parts were like too stretched out, where when it finally came to the conclusion, I was kind of like, this was the big thing that happened. But what I really enjoyed about this book was how all of the characters, how all of their stories kind of like interacted with one another. And it's funny because I actually said that similarly to They Both Die at the end, where all of the characters kind of have like this interwoven interactions with one another. Yeah, that makes sense. Obviously, if they're interacting, they're interwoven. But I mean, like all of the past of the characters kind of like combined. So basically, this story is about a wedding that is happening between this kind of like power couple, where the guy is kind of like this Bear Grylls type of guy. He has his own like survival show, and he kind of like gets dropped off into islands, and they based it off of this game that he used to play in high school. His wife is a like, I think she like runs a website, but it's called like The Download. It's like a bloggy website, kind of like / magazine, and they are getting married, and they agree to have their wedding at this remote island. I believe it's like off the coast of Ireland. Don't quote me on that. I don't. Scotland? Ireland? One of those. I don't know if Ireland even has a coast. Wow. Anyway. So they go and they have their wedding on this like remote island that you can only reach by boat, and someone gets killed. We don't know who gets killed all the way until the end, so I'm obviously not going to die, but everyone, basically it revolves around the fact that everyone has a motive for it could be done, and everyone has secrets about their past, and you could just kind of see how like in this remote setting with all of the history of these characters, it all comes out, and it was so beautiful. I felt myself getting really connected to two characters in this book. I felt myself really connected to Hannah and Olivia. Trigger warning, this is an adult book. It is not a young adult book. So there are talks of like depression and self-harm. So that is the only thing that you really have to watch out for if you're like going into this book. So just be warned, because I didn't know anything about that until I read it. It does come up pretty early in the book, but if those are kind of like triggering things that you want to avoid, maybe, you know, keep it in mind that this book does have some scenes of that. But overall, very pleasantly surprised with this book. Definitely going to recommend it to some of my coworkers that like thrillers more. And yeah, I'm super glad that I read it. I got it on Book of the Month, so it was only $9 for this book. So, one other thing that I sort of realized about all 4 of my books that I read this month so far was what I really enjoyed was getting the different points of view from different characters. All of these books have different points of view that it's being written in, and I think that I really, really enjoyed that because you're not in the head of one character for too long, which I totally appreciated. My last book, my most disappointing book of the month, and possibly of this year. I was so excited to read this book, mostly because she is known as, you know, the queen of thriller, the queen of mystery. I was so excited to read Murder on the Orient Express. I picked this book up quite a while ago when the movie came out because I was like, I'm gonna read it before the movie. But then I got a little scared to read it because it's an adult book, and honestly, like, adult books, I feel, to me, which is now kind of a silly thought, but at the time when this came out, a whole whopping 3 years ago, I was like, oh no, I'm only 22, I can't read adult books yet, only young adult for me, please. Don't know why that was my train of thought ever, but it was. So I let this book kind of just sit there. I also think I was intimidated by the fact that it is kind of like a classic at this point, and it has, I believe, a 4.3 on Goodreads, which to me, I was just like, I should be more excited. Why am I not more excited to read this? And let me tell you, my intuition was correct. I was not excited to read this. I gave this a whopping 2 stars, mostly because I was very interested in the solving of the murder. I do love detective stuff, like Sherlock Holmes, I've read a few of the books about Sherlock Holmes, and I loved them. I loved the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. And to be the Queen of Mystery, is it the Queen of Mysteries or the Queen of... Okay, well, it doesn't say on my edition, but I know that she is, like, represented as the Queen of Thrillers, I guess. To be known as the Queen of something, and to write a book this bad. Makes me wonder if I could be the queen of something too, okay? You know what? Because there were times where I had no idea what was going on. I wish I could assign the roles to 12 or 14 different characters and ask them to act it out, which, well, you know what? Technically I did, because I went and I watched the movie right after this happened. I finished it 3 hours before I rented the movie, because I told my dad I was going to read this book, and he was like, oh, hey, you know what, like, I want to watch the movie, so I was like, okay, we'll watch the movie. We did watch the movie. I loved the movie. I loved the movie. Hated the book. Ah! How often does that happen? Not often. But, I did enjoy the ending of the book a little bit more than the ending of the movie, because the ending of the movie added, like, if this book had maybe another 50 pages, that's what the movie kind of did to it. It added a whole whopping conclusion that is not in the book. But yeah, I don't know. I was really, really looking forward to this, because originally when I was younger, I wanted to be a detective. I loved the idea of forensic science and just being able to figure things out and put pieces of puzzles together, and I was just so looking forward to, like, hey, I'm gonna read this book finally, and, you know, like, detective stuff, I'm always for it. Once again, it's the summer, so I could read about murder, because I'm not gonna get murdered in the summer, obviously. That's when all of the serial killers take their vacations. I don't know. I was just so disappointed. I feel like the twist was good, and I think that's why it got the 2 stars that it did. And I like the writing, kind of. It's very simple writing, so that's kind of always good, because whenever I'm going into an adult book or a classic book, I'm a little afraid of the writing being, like, too dry for me, but the writing was good. The story was a little bit difficult to follow, and I felt like none of the characters were actually that remarkable, except for, like, maybe 3 of them. I don't know. And so, out of the whole month, this was the book that I hated the most, and I'm super thankful that it only took me 2 days to get through it, because it is only like 250 pages. But yeah, so, you know, if you disagree and Murder on the Orient Express is one of your all-time favorites, please tell me, because maybe I just missed something. Maybe it's because I don't know, I just couldn't jive with it the whole time, which was a little depressing for me. But yeah, if you loved Murder on the Orient Express, please tell me. Or maybe if there's a different Agatha Christie book that I should check out, because I have heard really fantastic things about her other books. Maybe if there's a different book that you think is better than this one by her, please tell me, and I will definitely be trying to give her another read-through, because I kind of want to do like a murder spooky reading recommendation for like October maybe? But yeah, so these are all of the books that I read this month. I'm super happy that I got back into the idea of reading. And thank you so much for watching this if you did. And hopefully the next video I post I'm planning to do is like a TBR for July, because I'm doing my first official, well, I'm not doing my own, I'm participating in my first official readathon, so I'm very excited for that. Anyway, please tell me down below if you have watched this video, that would be cool, if you have read any of these books, or if you also think you're gonna get murdered in your house when you're home alone.